Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this talk for the Festival for Change today. I'm Penelope Milner, and today we will be in conversation with Niels de Fraguier. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today, Niels. And you are a fantastic, innovative entrepreneur who has numerous business ventures and really wants to empower young people to have this regenerative entrepreneurship as well and make their own impact. And today the session will work where Niels will do a 5-minute introduction of himself, and then we will also move to some questions for the remainder of the session. So I really look forward to hearing from you. A brief introduction from me as well. I'm a geography student at the University of Leeds, and I'm also involved in a group in Todmorden who are running a sustainable climate challenge education course. So I'll hand over to you now, Neil, and I really look forward to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Penelope, and thank you everyone for tuning in, wherever you are in the world. Really looking forward to this session, to hearing your questions and reflecting together on the meaning of regenerative entrepreneurship. In a couple of sentences about my backgrounds, I have a background at the intersection of youth, sustainability, and impact. I've been working with numerous communities around the world, different countries, different organizations from the United Nations, the European Commission, but also grassroots initiatives and social businesses. And today I wanted to have a focus on regenerative entrepreneurship, which is a new field that is emerging. So today the presentation, and it's going to be short, is going to be a few points about what does it mean to make transformational impact as a change maker. I will give you a couple of insights. Not all the solutions are out there, but it can give you a clue and a couple of insights about what's ahead and what you can do. So first point is really, how do we shift from sustainability to regeneration? Today, everyone is talking about sustainability, and it's kind of the short term, kind of easy approaches. How do we reduce our impact? The real question is, how do we look at the system as a whole? I really like this image of, we have a couple of waves, we have a couple of challenges ahead of us. The first one was COVID, and it's still here. Then the recession is coming, the climate change is here, the biodiversity collapse, and it's a full system that is endangered and jeopardizing our existence on Earth in some ways. So how do we step back? How do we look at this? And the meaning of sustainability is usually about doing less harm. Is how do we reduce our negative externalities? But the real thing that we need to do is actually to restore, to regenerate, and to make our planet and our humanity and our society much more healthy. So really focusing on this slight difference between sustainable and regenerative, but being aware of this, and I will be happy to deep dive more into it. And yeah, I really like this quote. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors; we borrow it from our children. What if every single decision we are making today was actually taking into consideration the 7 generations ahead? So food for thoughts. I will let you reflect on this. Second part is really about how do we empower change? How do we foster impact, and how do we shift mindsets? So it's very practical. It's about you. It's like, what is your why? What is your purpose as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a change maker? What motivates you? What do you believe in? The how is your process. What are the specific actions that you're going to take to actually make your purpose come to life and becoming a journey for change? And the last one is the what. What is the result? What do you do? What do you want to achieve? So really important to focus on this, and really starting with the why, putting it at the core. And then this graph that is very interesting also is like, how do you frame, how do you observe, how do you analyze? And that's the first step, trying to understand. The second one is what if? What if the solution was XYZ? What if we could make it happen? Try to explore, try to imagine, try to create. What was is like, how do you build? How do you adapt? How do you evaluate about what you've created? And then the last step is what works. How do you experiment? How do you test? How do you implement? Or how do you look at how your solution plays in the world? And it's a loop. It's a never-ending process. And in that sense, it's again about systemic change. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model, that makes the existing model obsolete. You don't want to answer, with a piece of extra information. You actually want to rebuild something that is totally new. And then the last part is, leading the new way. How do you find your North Star? How do you make the jump? How do you make this, this dream a reality? So it's about trusting the process. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes commitment. So make sure you explore, dare to try new things, dare to learn, dare to meet new people, discover yourself. Who are you? And in that sense, finding your North Star. What is this North Star that you're gonna follow through your journey as a change maker? What is your higher purpose? And in that sense, why do you do what you do, and or why do you want to do what you do? And that's a very important question that we need to ask ourselves. What emotions move you to impact? Where is it coming from? And then you can source the change from within. So a couple of points, very short, very brief. Really looking forward to your questions, to deepening the conversation as well. It's important. And one thing to remember is, like, be yourself, everyone is taken. And in that sense, you're a change maker. You have a unique contribution to the world. You have to find it, but as soon as you find it, keep on being yourself, keep on sticking to your values, and making this change happen. And yeah, we'll have time to discuss. You can also drop me a line. Look at our initiative, the Positive Impact Community, where we focus on regenerative business, and a couple of resources for you to look at, from what is to what if. Regenerative Leadership, New Forms of Power, and Regenerative Business. That is a book that we wrote with Stephen about, my co-founder, about regenerative business. That's it for now.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. That was a brilliant introductory talk, and I'm really looking forward to the questions coming in and finding more about the work that you do. So feel free to fill the chat now with any questions that you have, and I'll just work through them. So we've already had a couple of questions through, which I'll just pop on screen now. So from Henry Levson Gore, we've got, can you give a specific example of regenerative entrepreneurship?
Thanks, Henry, for this question. Yeah, definitely. So what do we mean by regenerative entrepreneurship? Let's look at a couple of businesses that are doing, having a regenerative approach. I can share one, Aduna, for instance, that is based in the UK. Aduna works on a healthy and nutritious food. And basically, the founder of Aduna went to Western Africa, to Ghana, Burkina Faso, and discovered that women out there were not necessarily empowered, had faced economic disparities. And what he realized is that around them there were baobab trees that were producing massive amount of food, but that wasn't used. And in that sense, Andrew took a step back and found, like, oh wow, actually, there is value out there. There is value as a business, but there is also value for a community, and there is value for a society as well, because with nutritious food you can actually help people be more healthy and have a thriving society. So Andrew came back to the UK and realized that there was a business opportunity. And then he started this business, Aduna, empowering more than 13,000 women, in Burkina Faso, in Ghana. He's contributing to the Great Green Wall, which is an initiative that's all about reforesting Western Africa. He's contributing to healthy food in the UK and selling, sustainable products. And in that sense, it's like, how do we actually englobe, our impact as a company? How do we have a 360-degree approach to what we do, and make sure that everyone is empowered? Our planet is supported and restored. Individuals are thriving and are included and empowered, and there is diversity. We have partners, we have healthy supply chains, we have full transparency, and we work with communities and places. We belong to places, we support places, and make sure that everyone is part of this. And obviously there is a core purpose of the business as well, at the core and at the center.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we've also got another question from Henry Levson Gower, and that question is on screen now. So what do you think you can bring as your unique contribution to change making?
So I think everyone has a unique contribution. It's like we all come from somewhere. We have somehow been formatted to a certain environment because of our experiences, because our family, because of our backgrounds, whatever it is, we come from somewhere, and that's really important to recognize this. And I think that that's the first stepping stone in finding your North Star and finding your unique contribution is like, where do I come from? What are my biases? What is the reason for me to be here today? And what is the unique contribution I want to make to the world, in the sense that, what is important to me? What speaks to my value? What speaks to my heart? So it's really an explorational journey that you have to make and start from today. Is like, where do I want to contribute? What do I want to do? What is meaningful? What is important to me? And I think that one of the challenges that we face, and even more for young change makers, is actually that there is a lot of pressure from society, a lot of pressure about your status, about your role, about what we call success. But what is the meaning of success? And I think that that's a question that we all need to ask: is how do we redefine success to make sure that it actually fits with our ideals, with our just cause? So the unique contribution is something very personal, and no one will never be able to tell you, what your contribution is going to be, because it has to come from you. But what you can get is actually testimonies and insights from people that surround you, and make sure that these people are actually giving you clues, and that you're asking them questions. That they are, also kind of triggering some thoughts on you, and make sure that you're well surrounded is very important. And once again, it takes time, because to transform within yourself and to transform a society, a community, the world itself, it's a painful process in some way. So you have to accept it and kind of honor it, and welcome it, and make sure that you do this as a full commitment, and as a life purpose.
Lovely. Thank you. And thank you for your questions, Henry. We've now got another question from Amelia1528. And she says, thank you very much, Niels, for sharing. And what made you want to start this path into the regenerative entrepreneurship?
So the reason why I started regenerative entrepreneurship, and I will go beyond regenerative entrepreneurship, because regenerative entrepreneurship is a specific topic that I care about and that I'm focusing on now, because I believe this is the solution to solve the global challenges. But if I step back once again and come back to my past, in some ways, I've always been focusing on people. I've always worked with young people on youth policies, on youth projects. I've worked a lot with women, gender equality, economic empowerment. I worked a lot with refugees on social inclusion and empowerment. And I realized, when I took a step back, I realized that everything I was doing was actually about people. And people was my core focus. And, when I did this exploratory path of, what is the unique contribution I want to make to the world? People was always, coming back to me, people around me, experiences I had, and that was really people focused and people centered. So in that sense, I realized I want to be in service. I want to be in service of others. And then what I understood is that being in service can take so many different forms, but actually helping change makers, becoming regenerative entrepreneurs, and really focusing on their inner journey, their inner self, and making sure that they can make an impact on the world, was actually what was meaningful to me. If we look at the current crisis that we are facing, from the climate one to climate justice as well, social issues that are happening around the world, we see that people are always, the first ones to be able to make this change. So I felt like, what if I could help more and more people being on this path, being on this journey to actually make a transformational impact? And in that sense, regenerative entrepreneurship englobes, all these elements. But the people element was the starting point. And in that sense, that's where the journey started and the reflection started to bring me to this regenerative entrepreneurship topic today.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We've now got another question from Molly Chambers, who asks, what policies can be implemented to support regenerative entrepreneurship?
So that's a real question. I'm guessing some of you that will attend are already part of this field of sustainability, of impact, and we see that actually, there are a couple of stakeholders, and there are so many, and they don't necessarily communicate together. You have policymakers, you have civil society, you have businesses, and many others. And in that sense, policymakers, we know that it takes time. We've just seen the closing of COP this weekend, and we see that it's extremely difficult to come to agreements that are meaningful, that can be practically implemented, that can actually fit with every single, interest around the table. So in that sense, policies are important, but the beauty of regenerative entrepreneurship and the private sector is actually take the old system, take the old power system that focuses on very top-down perspective, and innovate, be a disruptor, be a change maker in some ways. And the beauty of regenerative entrepreneurship is actually that wherever you are in the world, you can make a change, and you can influence policies, you can influence others, you can inspire other human beings around you to make sure that this is happening. So policies, can be implemented and will be implemented, and what type of policies, it can be higher commitments, focusing on net zero policies by 2030 and not 2050, 2070, focusing on zero waste, focusing on diversity, focusing on healthy supply chains, focusing on biodiversity, local ecosystems. There are so many policies that can be implemented, but the real change, if we want this to happen quick enough and in the right way, is actually about starting from the bottom up and saying, you know what, I'm part of a community. I see that there is a need. There is a social and environmental impact I want to make. And then from this impact, I will actually generate an income. I will generate, an impact. And then from this, policies will evolve because people will be looking at you and saying, oh, wow, I'm a policy maker. And I see that Molly is doing this in this local community. And then it's going to be, oh, Molly, what have you learned? What are the insights that you've got from this? And then it's going to shift the debate, and you're going to get, open doors to actually make this change happen and be written into a policy. But the first thing is, let's make sure we take action now, and that we are really looking at practical solutions.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I think I just had a question to add to that. It's just, when you're starting from the bottom and kind of wanting to make this change and wanting to, be an entrepreneur, and, how do you kind of like develop your networks and kind of get people on board with that? How do you kind of get the message out to other people and do that in a way that, they will want to help you with your cause?
It's extremely important. Some people might be started with networks, with privileged situations and all that. And I'm in a sense privileged. I'm a Western European, and I was born in a family that gave me everything I needed. But in that sense, I wasn't plugged into the impact or sustainability world, and I was like, where am I gonna start? And it's been a struggle. It's been a real struggle in a sense that getting access to these networks is extremely difficult. You get a lot of of no's, you get a lot of ignorance in some ways, and when you start from somehow without experience when it comes to working experience, it's extremely difficult. So what I would insist on is focus on your lived experience, because as an individual you faced challenges, you faced traumas, you faced realities that no one else has faced working in this space. So make sure that you highlight your lived experience rather than your working experience. And sometimes, the lived experience is much more powerful than the working one, because you know what you're talking about. You know what the challenges are. You know what potential solutions are. You know the beneficiaries or the people you want to work with. You know the communities. So in that sense, it's really how it starts. And then from that, when you identify this need, knock on doors, reach out to people, propose solutions, ask them for 30 minutes of their time to have a call, and make sure that you're on point when you talk to them. Is like, make sure that you actually show that you know what you're talking about, you know where you want to go, you know what your life purpose is about. And I think that that's something I've learned, is like, clearer you are on the way you approach these people and what you expect from them, better the outcome will be. So building networks takes time. It's a long-term, efforts, but in that sense, starting from today and making sure that you connect with people is important. And once again, network doesn't necessarily mean connecting to people at the highest level of international organizations or big businesses. It can actually be people in your community that are leading change. Local authorities, local NGOs, local people, and just go and talk to them, and you will see that more motivated you are, more clear you are, and more dynamic and very on point you are, easier it will become, and then you will see that it creates ripple effects, because if people enjoy what you're doing, they're going to talk about you, they're going to introduce you to others, and then you're going to do the same as well, which is the beauty of networking or human connections in general, is that you will also introduce them to other people you've met, and then everyone brings value to each other, and then you create this nested system of people that have the same objective, want to help each other, and collaborate and co-create something very unique.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. We've had another question come in from Henry Lewson Gore, and he asks, what is your current initiative with Stephen Vasconcelos? Have I pronounced that right? Designed to do.
Yeah, so the current initiative I'm committed to and I'm focusing on at the moment actually englobes regenerative entrepreneurship, but goes beyond that. It's we've just launched with Stephen a bit more than a year ago what we call the Positive Impact Community. So it's a community of changemaker businesses that are committed to become regenerative businesses. What we mean by that is we help them going beyond sustainability and doing the extra mile. And the idea is to convene a network and a community of pioneers that really understand what it takes to make change, that are ready to transform their businesses. And what we do is like we take them from where they are with a clear social or environmental purpose, which is a requirement for us. And as soon as they have that, wherever they are in the journey to become regenerative, we give them, practical tools, practical insights, methodologies, access to experts, events, workshops, visibility, to make sure that actually the dream can become true, and can become a reality. And in that sense, it's like, how do we make sure that we empower, systemic change through the power of business? How do we make sure that all these entrepreneurs that have got this regenerative, beyond sustainability mindset can be supported along the way? So anyone that is committed to radical change, radical collaboration, co-creation can join us. And then from this community, we are aiming to build, a real change that can be an inspiration, once again, for policies, for instance, but also for the businesses that are using old power perspectives, but also for new change makers, like all of us on this call. You might want to start a business. Look at what we do, look at other businesses we work with, get some inspiration, get some knowledge, and let's make sure that we unite behind the same goal, and that we can make regenerative business, the new driving force by 2030.
Amazing. Thank you. Brilliant. So yes, please do keep your questions coming in, everyone. It would be fantastic to have a few more. We've got some more time in the session, but just in the meantime, I was just wondering, what are your goals? What's your next steps for the future in your kind of journey with regenerative entrepreneurship? Have you do you plan to kind of do more with the release of the COP26 deal than with the net zero carbon targets for 2030? Is there anything that you want to do there more to help with that?
Yeah, so it's a journey. The North Star is here, as I was sharing, is about people, is about how can I empower people? And in that sense, empowering people can take different shapes, different forms, various distinctions. But the most important for me now is like, how do we empower people to become regenerative entrepreneurs? And in that sense, like, how can I be in service of change makers, like all of us on these goals, but also so many others that might need support, might have amazing ideas to actually make change happening, and how can I be in service of these people and of our society? So that's really the main goal. And it takes time, it takes energy, once again, but it's how do we build bridges? How do I make sure that I connect people, that I am important, that I'm available? And I think that the society we live in, everything is going so fast, everyone is so-called busy, in some ways, but are we more present? Are we more present with our thoughts, with our emotions? Are we vulnerable? Are we compassionate? Or do we put values at the core of who we are? And that's really where I stand, is like, how can I help others do that? And how can I continue this journey also within myself to make sure that, we can all lead by example, inspire each other, and go on this journey. So that's where my focus is. And it's also about what I was sharing in this presentation, like trusting the process. dare to try, be audacious, get something done, whatever it is, but make sure it happens. We all have amazing ideas. We often question ourselves about, oh, is that valuable? Is that relevant? As soon as you take this global approach and this 360-degree, kind of impact perspective, and it fits with this, let's try it, let's make it, and there is no wrong thing about failing. I failed myself so many times, and I will keep failing, and I'm still failing until today, and will do so. And I think that's what it means to trust the process. It's like, let's make sure that you follow this path, and that you believe in yourself, you trust others, and that you dedicate your life to what you believe is right to your community and the society as a whole.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, I think it's oftentimes where you don't succeed that's the most important part, because that's kind of like the turning point and what gives you more drive to want to do more. So yeah, I think that's really important. So I think we've got time for maybe one or two more questions. So if anybody has any, feel free to just pop them in the chat. I was just wondering, Niels, is there anything that you wanted to kind of add that we've not spoken about your work yet, just before the end of the session, or to the audience?
I could add something. I think that it's really important to talk to young change makers in general about what we call eco anxiety. We live in a world that is extremely complex, that is extremely difficult to understand and to visualize, and it's difficult to look ahead. Let's be honest. How is our planet going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years time? We have no clue about this. So I think that something to insist on is that looking after ourselves, making sure that we get space for ourselves, and that we look after our needs is extremely important. It's good to be a change maker. It's good to aim for a better world. But if you're not healthy from within, you're not going to make the impact you want to make. So I think that that's really important to insist on. That is like, we are all struggling with what's happening. We need to talk to each other about this. We need to be vulnerable. After COPE, I was like very emotional as well, and I'm still, and I'm like, there is a form of disappointment, there is a form of motivation, there is a form of despair in some ways, and we are all going through this. All the entrepreneurs we work with are also going through this. So making sure that you get yourself some space, that you connect with others, that you share about how you feel, what are the struggles that you have, is extremely important, because that's part of the process. That's part of the growing, the personal growth in some ways, is learning to actually listen within yourself about who you are, what you feel, and then from that you will better understand where you want to go. So echo anxiety is a big thing, and then also radical collaboration. No one will make it alone. I won't make it alone. You won't make it alone. We need to be together, and that's the reason why the Festival for Change and so many other events that convene people together are very important. So make sure that you connect with each other. Make sure that you ask questions, and make sure that you also share your lack of knowledge. Sometimes no one is an expert in any topic. It's like we are all learning. So don't be afraid of saying I don't know, and there are so many things that we still don't know today about our economy, about our planet, about our future. Let's accept that, and let's once again trust this journey we're in.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Well, I think that was a fantastic point to kind of leave the presentation on today. I didn't know, Niels, did you have that PowerPoint with some book recommendations? And I'll just put that on the screen whilst we're closing the talk for people in the audience, if you want to follow up on anything that you found out today. I know that I've been really inspired. And I'll definitely be using this in the work that I'm doing as well. So there's just some books on screen there that Niels has recommended if you want to learn more about regenerative entrepreneurship. So I hope that you all enjoyed the talk today. Thank you to Henry Leveson Gore, Amelia 1528, and Molly Chambers for asking questions today as well. And thank you so much, Niels, for your talk today. It's been fantastic. And yes, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being part of the stream.
Thanks, everyone.